Subcommittee on Federal Lands will come to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess of the subcommittee at any time. Before we begin today's hearing, I'd like to ask that we pause for a moment of silence for the two service members of the West Virginia National Guard who were shot in a senseless act of violence in our nation's capital last week. One of them, Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, tragically lost her life in service to our country. Specialist Andrew Wolf remains in serious condition, and we pray for his full recovery. Please join me in a moment of silence for both of these brave Americans. Thank you. We will now proceed with our hearing. The subcommittee is meeting today to consider 5 bills. H.R. 4671, sponsored by Representative Harder. H.R. 4931, sponsored by Representative Murphy of North Carolina. H.R. 5063, sponsored by Representative Kiggins. H.R. 5103, sponsored by Representative McGuire, and H.R. 5254, sponsored by Representative Bell. I ask unanimous consent that the following members be allowed to participate in today's hearing from the dais. Gentlelady from Virginia, Ms. Kiggins, gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Crank, gentleman from North Carolina, Dr. Murphy, and the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. McGuire. Without objection, so ordered. Under Committee Rule 4F, any oral opening statements at hearings are limited to the chairman and the ranking minority member. I therefore ask unanimous consent that all other members' opening statements be made part of the hearing record if they are submitted in accordance with Committee Rule 3, Parent O. Without objection, so ordered. I'll now recognize myself for an opening statement. Our nation's capital was created to be both the permanent seat of our federal government and serve as a powerful symbol of national pride and strength. Washington, D.C. is home to some of the most revered landmarks, honoring our heroes, celebrating our triumphs, and promoting the foundational ideals that define our nation. D.C. should be a place that makes all Americans proud and where every citizen, whether you live here or are just visiting, feels safe. Unfortunately, our once proud national capital has become one of the most dangerous and deadly cities in the country. Just 2 short years ago, under President Biden and in the wake of the Defund the Police movement, D.C. experienced its deadliest year in 2 decades. While homicide rates across the country decreased by 15%, D.C.'s increased by more than 35% from 2022 to 2023. There are real people behind these statistics, people who are fathers, mothers, daughters, sons, grandchildren, who will never come home again. According to the Washington Post, in 2023, the 274 confirmed homicide victims ranged from infants to octogenarians. They were killed in homes, in metro stations, and in motor vehicles. They were killed in alleys, in school zones, and in public parks. They were slain on streets by acquaintances and strangers and in the crossfire of warring neighborhood crews. By the way, neighborhood crews is the word that the Washington Post chooses to use. I would say gangs. In double shootings and triple shootings. They died in the dark and the dawn and under the midday sun in all parts of Washington, from its poorest precincts to its busiest commercial and nightlife areas. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter that article into the record. Without objection, so ordered. And just last week, right before Thanksgiving, 2 National Guardsmen sent here to help keep our city safe were shot by the White House in broad daylight. One of those National Guardsmen, Sarah Beckstrom, sadly passed away while Andrew Wolf was fighting for his life. It is a sad reality that our nation's capital has become increasingly inundated with rising crime, rampant drug use, entrenched homeless encampments, vandalism, and in general breakdown of public order. These are not isolated incidents. We are seeing the impact of progressive, soft-on-crime policies that deprioritize enforcement, decriminalize dangerous behavior, and allow repeat offenders to cycle through a broken system. Now, some may ask, why is this topic the Subcommittee on Federal Lands is covering? What many people don't realize is that nearly 1/4 of Washington, D.C. is comprised of parkland open to the public, with the National Park Service managing approximately 90% of the area. These are federally owned lands, maintained by American taxpayers and visited by millions of citizens each year. And unfortunately, as crime has increased, so has the widespread desecration of public spaces in DC managed by the National Park Service. Homeless encampments have increasingly overrun public parks. These spaces intended for enjoyment by the public have become havens for drug abuse, mental illness, vandalism, and violence. In fact, NPS has even had to take the drastic step of closing public parks near local elementary schools to ensure the safety of students. In response to the unacceptable conditions in our nation's capital, President Trump has taken decisive actions to reestablish law and order in Washington, D.C. Through 2 executive orders, making the District of Columbia safe and beautiful, and declaring a crime emergency in the District of Columbia, President Trump has launched a coordinated effort to restore safety, ensure proper enforcement, and return beauty to our nation's capital. This included the deployment of 800 National Guardsmen and the mobilization of U.S. Park Police to help support public safety. One of the bills that we are considering today, H.R. 5103, codifies the Making the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful executive order. This is an important bill that will further strengthen the work being done by the Trump administration to once again make our nation's capital a city every American can be proud of. I applaud Representative McGuire for his leadership on this effort and commend the rest of the sponsors of today's legislation for their important work on these bills. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today and want to thank each of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Your insight and expertise are invaluable to the work of this subcommittee. With that, I yield back and recognize the chairman of the full committee. Want to go to the rank? We'll recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, I'd like to request unanimous consent to enter something into the record. This is a recent New York Times article titled "Climate Shock is Eroding Some Home Values. New data shows how much." It is about how extreme weather, flooding, wildfires, hurricanes, and such are driving insurance premiums so high that home ownership is slipping out of reach. Another reminder that the climate crisis is real, and we should be talking about it in this committee.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to begin by saying a word about crime and public safety. I think everyone in this room and people in every congressional district, regardless of their politics, want safer streets, effective and fair law enforcement. We want a justice system that keeps us safe and works for everyone. And despite that widespread agreement on what our objectives should be, too often the debate on this subject and the president's approach to it is more about politics and control than about safety and justice. And that's disturbing because the police power is an awesome thing. We need it, and it should never be turned into a political weapon. Here in Washington, we have seen repeated assaults on home rule, overriding decisions made by local leaders and the many people who actually live here. Instead of working with these communities who want public safety, by the way, instead of working with them to improve public safety, this administration would rather dictate from above, using crime as a pretext to undermine local self-government and, of course, to habituate the American people to the image of troops in the street as cops. That should be disturbing, too. This same instinct to centralize power, to sideline local voices, and to use fear as a tool also shows up in another arena that's at least indirectly on today's agenda, and that's how the administration treats history itself. Several times this year, I've raised concerns about the Trump administration's systematic attempts to rewrite history. I've had to raise that concern again today because these efforts have only accelerated across the country. We're seeing the whitewashing of history in our national parks. Just since this summer, Secretary Burgum demanded the Park Service remove references to transgender people from the Stonewall National Monument, censor any mention of climate change at Acadia National Park, erase the indigenous history of Muir Woods National Monument in my district. Even as the shutdown furloughed park rangers and shuttered programming, the censorship continued. Last month, the author of a book titled The State of Water, Understanding California's Most Precious Resource, learned that book would no longer be stocked in Yosemite's bookstore? When did documenting California's water crisis and hydrology become controversial? This comes from President Trump's Orwellian imperial edict titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, which hasn't restored sanity or anything like it. Instead, it's been a vehicle to whitewash the story of our country. And let me state clearly for the record here, banning books does nothing to restore truth or tell the story of our nation. It's what totalitarians and tyrants do. So is putting the military in the streets as cops. My Republican colleagues have called us here to talk through a litany of bills, including one to codify Trump's assault on home rule in D.C. And if you want to talk about sanitizing history, you can look at what he is doing right here in Washington. The administration recently reinstalled a statue of a Confederate general in our nation's capital. That's the inverted history that these folks want to rewrite and elevate, the lost cause of the treasonous Confederacy. I've been in Congress long enough to remember when celebrating that kind of thing was an embarrassment, not a source of truth. This administration is burying the truth, hiding the ball, and here in D.C., you should just look at what he's doing to the East Wing of the White House. The president unilaterally bulldozed parts of the White House, a key symbol of our nation, a historic structure, without even telling the American people what he was doing, and that's why everyone is so furious about it. Look, right now, American families are struggling with high costs from spiking health insurance premiums because of the crisis that Republicans have set in motion with their big, ugly bill. Trump's tariffs, of course, that are driving up costs for everything, and the administration's attacks on clean energy. Those should be our priorities today, not gilded ballrooms, vanity projects, or campaigns to scrub uncomfortable truths from our history. I yield back.
Gentleman yields, and I'll recognize the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Westerman.
Thank you, Chairman Tiffany, for holding this important hearing today. We were supposed to have this hearing nearly 2 months ago at the beginning of October, but due to the Schumer shutdown, we had to postpone this important topic. Unfortunately, we're now gathered here under very somber circumstances. Last week, 2 National Guardsmen, Sarah Beckstrom and Andrew Wolf, who were sent here to protect our nation's capital, were brutally and violently attacked just blocks away from the White House. Unfortunately, U.S. Army Specialist Beckstrom passed away from her injuries at just 20 years old, while U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf remains in critical condition. This is especially personal to me today, as 100 Arkansas National Guardsmen are on their way to Washington, D.C. We're lifting these 2 brave officers and their families up in prayers. What should have been a joyous holiday for these families has turned into nothing short of a living nightmare. This kind of violence should be unacceptable anywhere, but especially in the heart of our nation's capital. Washington, D.C. is not just another city. It's the capital of the United States and should reflect the strength and dignity of our nation. And unfortunately, this type of violence has become the norm, not the exception for our nation's capital. Last year, there were more than 29,000 crimes reported in D.C., including more than 5,000 vehicle thefts, nearly 3,500 violent offenses, approximately 2,100 robberies, and over 1,000 assaults with a deadly weapon. Members of Congress have been assaulted and carjacked at gunpoint just blocks from the Capitol. 2 young fathers, Mike Gill and A.J. Vasquez, were murdered by the same criminal during an 11-hour carjacking spree. And a 21-year-old congressional intern was slain in a random act of violence getting off the metro when he was caught in a barrage of crossfire totaling 79 rounds. In total, D.C. is now considered 10 times deadlier than New York City, despite having a population 1/10 of the size. H.R. 5103 is a thoughtful, common-sense step to addressing the safety issues plaguing our nation's capital. Building on President Trump's recent executive orders, H.R. 5103 creates a lasting framework for the federal government to work with local leaders to restore order and safety to our nation's capital. This bill also creates the D.C. Safe and Beautiful Commission to help coordinate and bolster law enforcement efforts in the city. Importantly, this legislation requires the Department of the Interior to lead efforts to remove graffiti and restore monuments, memorials, and other important public areas in DC. As you can see behind me, some of our nation's most iconic memorials and monuments, like the Lincoln Memorial and Washington Monument, have been desecrated by vandalism and graffiti in recent years. Last year, pro-Hamas riders defaced monuments, burned American flags, and raised foreign flags on National Service land near Union Station. At the time, I wrote to then Secretary Holland after U.S. Park Police were left outnumbered and exhausted, working days of overtime because the Biden administration failed to provide reinforcements. Officers were subject to violent attacks by pro-Hamas groups with ties to hostile foreign actors. That day made clear how chaos can be sown in our capital when coordination and accountability break down. Thankfully, since President Trump's executive orders, we have started to see a shift in D.C. Just weeks after President Trump's executive actions, violent crime dropped 58%, carjackings were down 60%, and there were 56% less robberies compared to the prior year. For the first time in years, D.C. went nearly 2 weeks without a homicide. U.S. Park Police have cleared nearly 100 homeless encampments on federal land since the executive orders were signed. The D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force has also arrested dangerous criminals with prior convictions, confiscated large amounts of illegal narcotics, and seized hundreds of firearms, as you can see in the picture behind me. Violent crime, carjackings, smash and grab robberies, and the desecration of treasured memorials and landmarks should not go unchecked or be considered the norm in our nation's capital. By simply creating a legal framework for federal and local law enforcement cooperation through H.R. 5103, we can take a meaningful step to ensure America's capital is safe, strong, and inspiring, a place worthy of the people it represents. I want to thank Representative McGuire for leading this effort, and I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today. With that, I yield back.
Chairman yields. I now recognize the ranking member, Mr. Neguse, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Tiffany. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the witnesses and the members who made an effort to be here today. Certainly good to be back after several weeks away from Washington. As has been referenced, the shutdown only exacerbated existing issues on our public lands with furloughed land managers, halted research, and paused wildfire risk reduction projects. Because parks remained open during the shutdown, including the Rocky Mountain National Park in my district in Colorado, land managers not only experienced damage to the lands, but also lost revenue from uncollected fees. And I think it says quite a bit about this administration's priorities that one of the only groups of staff retained during the shutdown were the staff focused on rubber stamping fossil fuel projects. As key projects like prescribed burns stalled, the Trump administration greenlit oil, gas, timber, coal projects across wide swaths of our public lands. This administration has clearly shown that they are putting polluters over public lands and the people who manage them. So, we have a lot to go through today. Let's turn to our docket of bills, starting with the Ensuring Casualty Assistance for Our Firefighters Act from my good friend Josh Harder of California. I and many of my colleagues have continued to raise awareness about the health hazards that wildland firefighters face every day on the line of duty. H.R. 4671 continues our work to support firefighters and their families when tragedy strikes. This bill would establish a casualty assistance program at the Department of Interior modeled after an existing program at the Forest Service. This was a recommendation, as many of you may recall, from the Bipartisan Wildfire Commission. It also is included as part of my firefighter pay and benefits legislation, TIMS Act, named after a heroic firefighter who tragically lost his life fighting a fire several years ago. I am glad and excited to see this bill from my friend Representative Harder on the docket today, and I want to thank Matt Ron from the Wildfire Conservancy for coming to testify in support of that bill. Next up, we have H.R. 4931, which would change the Park Service's lease bidding and extension processes. While I certainly support providing small businesses with the certainty they need to operate successfully, I would like to learn more and look forward to learning more today about the implications of amending the bidding process, and certainly look forward to hearing from the administration's witness as well as the broader set of witnesses on this bill. We also have H.R. 5062, which aims to address lifeguard shortages on federal beaches. While I support the goal, I suspect we all support the goal of having safe, well-staffed beaches, I have to say that I think this legislation fails to address the actual source of the problem here, which is the Trump administration's continuous cuts to federal agency staff and the ongoing hiring freeze. And I suspect that we'll have more opportunities to talk about both here during this hearing. Finally, we will discuss H.R. 5103 regarding the District of Columbia. The Republican-controlled House has now passed 9 bills this year alone to repeal or amend District of Columbia's laws. This has been the most unproductive Congress in nearly a century. So since the 1930s, just in terms of legislation that this House of Representatives has passed. And of the limited bills they've passed, 9 of them regarding repeal of District of Columbia laws and policies. I would like to see this committee and to see the House of Representatives focus on the multitude of really vexing challenges and problems that are facing our country. And I certainly hope that in the future, as we consider hearing topics for future proceedings of this committee, that will be a factor. Finally, we have H.R. 5254, which would support the relationship between Gateway Arch National Park and the Gateway Arch Foundation. We're lucky to have both of my colleagues, or rather, both my colleague, Representative Bell, the sponsor of this legislation, as well as Ryan McClure, the Executive Director of the Foundation, here with us to discuss that legislation. I look forward to hearing the same. With that, Mr. Chairman, I will yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Neguse. We will now move on to our first panel, which consists of members who are sponsoring today's legislation. And I will now recognize Representative Murphy for 5 minutes on H.R. 4931.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member. Thankful for the consideration of my bill, H.R. 4931, National Park System Long-Term Leased Investment Act. My bill will give the Secretary of the Interior give the Secretary of the Interior through the Director of the National Park Service the authority to extend a lease if the lease has been entered into not less than 5 years before the date of the extension to take effect. The Director of the National Park Service would determine if extending the lease is in the best interest of the applicable unity of the National Park Service. In Dare County, we have a model of a private-public partnership at the Oregon Inlet Fishing Center. One of my constituents has made significant infrastructure improvements to include the construction of a fishing center in conjunction with the National Park Service. The reports I've received from Dare County leadership, including Chairman Bob Woodard, who is here today, have been nothing but laudatory and supportive of this initiative. The Park Service Superintendent, Mr. Dave Halleck, with whom I've had several conversations, has also mentioned the tremendous success of this initiative. It's not feasible for the leasee to enter the rebidding process. They've already invested funds in long-term improvements that are specific to the leased property and cannot be easily transferred or recouped. My bill is straightforward, simple. It's simple. It just allows the Park Service the authority to give the extension of the lease to if the National Park Service thinks it is in the best service of the park. By granting this authority to the Park Service, it encourages other private investors to invest wisely in the hopes of being considered for this opportunity. It is a win-win, not only for the community, but for the public and for the private partnerships that we see. The current law does not allow this type of authority to happen within the Park Service. I requested the last administration to do this. They turned this down and said it was not possible due to current law, hence we are here today. I'm thankful to Chairman Woodard, who will come and speak in more depth about this and the positive impact on Dare County, which is in my district. And I'm thankful to the Federal Land Subcommittee consideration of granting the authority of the Secretary of the Interior. There is a companion bill in the Senate sponsored by the 2 state senators, 2 U.S. senators from North Carolina, Tillis and Senator Budd. Thank you all for the consideration. This is just a win-win for the public and the private. Thank you all very much. Yield back.
Thank you, Representative Murphy. I'll now recognize Representative Kiggins for 5 minutes on H.R. 5063.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I represent Virginia's 2nd District, a district that sits on the Atlantic coast and Chesapeake Bay. Water safety is an essential issue for the Eastern Shore of Virginia, and as a representative for this region, it's my responsibility to ensure my constituents and visitors to our federal beaches remain safe. That is why I was deeply concerned to learn that after a federal hiring freeze earlier this year, Assateague Island National Seashore reported being unable to hire or pay for lifeguards at their federal beaches in Maryland and on Chincoteague in Virginia. This shortage put public safety at risk during the height of the summer season. When Interior Secretary Doug Burgum testified before the full committee in June of this year, he was eager to help solve this problem, as I was, and assured me temporary workers like lifeguards would be exempt from the hiring freeze. Yet this was not the reality on the beach. On June 20th, I sent a letter to Secretary Burgum requesting information relating to details of the hiring freeze, if temporary seasonal employees are exempt, and when we could expect lifeguards to be hired at the seashore. After much meaningful engagement with the department, I'm grateful that a deal was made in July between the town of Chincoteague, Accomack County, and the National Park Service, returning adequate lifeguard coverage to our federal beaches in Virginia. However, the town and country are still on the hook for much of the cost of filling these positions, a cost historically covered by the National Park Service. I'm working with the Secretary to get these funds reimbursed, but we must ensure this isn't a problem going forward. States and localities should be able to hire for public safety positions in times of crisis without worrying about how to pay for it. To prevent this problem in the future, I introduced the Safe Beaches, Safe Swimmers Act. This bill directs the Secretary of the Interior to work with local governments to ensure there is proper lifeguard coverage in the event of a lifeguard shortage, and that towns and counties can count on the National Park Service to pay the full cost of staffing these beaches on federal land. Chincoteague's beaches are a cherished part of our community, and keeping the families who visit them safe must be a priority. I would like to thank Chairman Tiffany for bringing my bill before the subcommittee, and I look forward to a discussion with our witness today, including Mayor Denise Bowden, the mayor of Chincoteague. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes Representative McGuire for 5 minutes on H.R. 5103.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the ranking member for the opportunity to speak on my bill, H.R. 5103, the Make the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful Act. As a Navy SEAL veteran, I fought for and served all Americans, regardless of race, religion, or creed. We all want to live, work, and raise our family in peace. And we may disagree how to get there, and I believe in limited government, but we have to keep the American people safe. You should be able to walk down any street in America with your little girl or little boy and be safe. And thank God, President Trump and this administration, many of us here are working so hard to keep the American people safe. My bill codifies President Trump's Executive Order 14252 and ensures our nation's capital is clean, safe, and beautiful. Our nation's capital is a direct reflection of our great country and should be a symbol of pride for the American people and a safe and beautiful place for all who reside and visit. Unfortunately, years of soft-on-crime policies have turned Washington, D.C. into a city with high crime rates, rampant homelessness, and graffiti on our historic buildings and monuments. Homeless encampments in D.C. have overrun land managed by the National Park Service and have become safe havens for drug use, drug abuse, vandalism, and violence. Symbols of our great nation, such as the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, and World War II Memorial, have all been vandalized and defaced over the years. In 2024, the District of Columbia had the 4th highest homicide rate in the country. Since President Trump's crackdown on crime in D.C., violent crime has drastically decreased. However, we must ensure that law and order continue to prevail. My bill codifies many elements of President Trump's successful executive order until 2029, ensuring there isn't a backslide into lawlessness in the city. This bill is not partisan, it is common sense. Every day, my constituents from Virginia's 5th Congressional District visit D.C. for work and vacation. I want to ensure that they have an enjoyable and safe visit without having to worry about rampant crime and homelessness and vandalized monuments and on our historical sites. Wanting our nation's capital to be safe and beautiful is not political. It is the best interest of all who travel to and call D.C. their home. I'd like to thank the Chairman, Tiffany, for allowing me the time to speak on this important legislation day, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Representative McGuire. We'll now move on to our second panel, and let me remind our witnesses for not only this panel but the other panels that under committee rules, you must limit your oral statement to 5 minutes, but your entire statement will appear in the hearing record. To begin your testimony, press the on button on the microphone. We use timing lights. When the light When you push the button, the light will turn green. At the end of 5 minutes, the light will turn red, and we'll ask you to please complete your statement. I'm now going to introduce Mr. Robert D. McLean, Director of the Office of Law Enforcement and Security at the Department of the Interior. Director McLean, thank you for you and your team's service, and you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairman Tiffany, Ranking Member Neguse, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on behalf of the Department of the Interior on H.R. 5103, the Make the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful Act. I would like to submit statements for the record on the following bills: H.R. 4671, H.R. 4931, H.R. 5063, and H.R. 5254. The department supports H.R. 5103, which aligns closely with the Executive Order 14252, Making the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful, issued by President Donald J. Trump on March 27th, 2025. Together, the bill and the executive order advance a shared goal, ensuring that the nation's capital is clean, safe, and beautiful, reflective of our history and heritage. The department, primarily through the National Park Service and the United States Park Police, has long been entrusted with stewarding many of the District of Columbia's most iconic landscapes, memorials, and public spaces. From the National Mall and its surrounding monuments to the parkways, circles, and historic squares that define the city. These landmarks carry immense symbolic and civic importance. In recent years, the district has faced challenges that threaten both the safety of its residents and its visitors, as well as the integrity of these public spaces. Graffiti, vandalism, encampments, lack of maintenance, and public safety concerns have all compromised the public's ability to enjoy and take pride in the nation's capital. In Executive Order 14252, President Trump directed the administration to take immediate steps to confront these challenges and make the District of Columbia safe and beautiful. This EO established the DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force. It also directed the Secretary of the Interior to work with other federal and District of Columbia officials to develop and implement a program to beautify the District of Columbia and to ensure the prompt removal of graffiti, protect monuments and memorials, and clearance of unsafe encampments on federal lands. H.R. 5103 codifies the principles of this EO. It statutorily establishes the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful Commission that, as described in the EO, will work closely with local officials to share information, develop joint priorities, and maximize resources to make the District of Columbia safe. H.R. 5103 also directs the Secretary of the Interior to develop a program to beautify the District of Columbia, focusing on cleanliness, restoration, and encouraging private sector participation. Codifying these principles in statute will allow the department to plan more effectively and invest in long-term strategies to work with others to restore and maintain the nation's capital. This work has begun with Secretary Burgum's issuance of Secretary's Order 3428. They recognize the department's unique responsibilities in this mission, including management of over approximately 1,000 acres of the District of Columbia's most significant cultural landscapes, and the United States Park Police's long history in their protection. H.R. 5103 reaffirms Congress's commitment to protecting the monuments, memorials, and historic sites that draw millions of visitors each year to the District of Columbia. These iconic landmarks and spaces in the capital city should be clean and safe for every American to experience and enjoy. For these reasons, the department supports passage of H.R. 5103 and looks forward to working with Congress to ensure a successful implementation. And finally, the department is immensely proud of its nearly 3,000 law enforcement officers who serve across our bureaus and offices. These dedicated professionals safeguard our public lands, protect natural and cultural resources, and ensure the safety of millions of visitors each year. Their service and sacrifice are a powerful reflection of the department's unwavering commitment to the American people. We honor their courage, their professionalism, and the vital role that they play in upholding the mission of the department every single day. Chairman Tiffany, this concludes my testimony. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you and other members of the subcommittee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McLean. I will now recognize members for questions, and I will begin with myself. I recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. McLean, last year I saw firsthand the destruction and desecration left in the wake of pro-Hamas protests at Union Station. The fact that the American flag was burned and a foreign flag was raised over federal land in the heart of our nation's capital is something that I think should make every American's blood boil. From a law enforcement perspective, can you please talk about the challenges that Park Police face when trying to control large violent protests such as the 2024 Union Station protest?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. The challenge with any large gathering, especially when members of that group become violent, is how the members of law enforcement need to react to manage that crowd and dynamic environment in split-second decision-making process. We support the First Amendment and the right to express that in our great country, in our nation's capital. But when members of a group such as that start with violence and damage to the property that we protect, it puts those law enforcement officers in danger. It puts the public and the communities in danger when these things happen. So the amazing support from our partners across the interagency, to include the Metropolitan Police Department, react together, they coordinate. This executive order, this bill, codifies that partnership, that cooperation, and only enhances the response of the interagency to these types of violent protests.
I appreciate you mentioning the First Amendment. Of course, you take an oath to uphold the Constitution, in which free speech is protected in our Constitution. Where does a protest like what we saw at Union Station cross the line from a peaceful protest, and how difficult is it sometimes for you and your officers, and I'm assuming you're overly cautious on the side of protecting free speech, but where does it cross the line like we saw at Union Station?
It's definitely a multi-tiered process. The permit that's issued to the group that is conducting that First Amendment activity is issued by the National Park Service, and within it, it has parameters to the administration of the event at hand. The members of the United States Park Police, along with other members of law enforcement, monitor those events to ensure compliance with that permit, but also to protect the property and protect the people attending the event, but also the community at large. So when members of a group either damage property or start with violent actions, law enforcement must react. And when they engage with these groups, there's a multi-tiered level. But as the level of violence increases, members of law enforcement need to take action to ensure that the safety of the event, the safety of the members of that group, and the safety of the community are protected. So when these officers enter into a situation where many members of a group are acting violently, it becomes very challenging. It's not like interacting with one person committing a violation of, say, graffiti or vandalism, where an officer can handle that relatively easy. It's these groups that act violently in mass. The officers, the command staff have to make decisions whether to clear the area or take action based on the level of violence that is occurring.
So just to be clear, there's no provision in any permit that would allow a group to vandalize federal property, to attack law enforcement officers, or to incite violence. You don't issue exceptions like that for permits, do you?
That's correct, sir.
And that still protects people's First Amendment right to free speech.
It does. Once a violation of the permit occurs or individuals or groups of individuals begin acting in a violent manner, there's the ability to revoke a permit, but also to take law enforcement action to ensure that we're protecting the people and the property.
So can you talk about the Park Service process for restoring memorials and monuments that are desecrated by violent protest?
It's a very delicate and deliberate process. As you can see the photos behind you and the photos that were portrayed before of the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. These are historic structures. They're made with materials that are very sensitive, so any damage, whether it's graffiti or anything else, the National Park Service takes great care in evaluating the need and the process by which they will restore that public monument memorial that's been defaced. So although it stays there for a while, right, this is part of our history. It's part of the culture of our nation, and our front yard, America's front yard, is the National Mall. So it's very deliberate, it's very coordinated. The National Park Service does a great job in protecting those monuments.
And thank you again for your efforts and your testimony. My time has expired. I now recognize the ranking member of the subcommittee, the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Neguse, for 5 minutes.
I thank the chairman. Thank you, Director, for being here. Thank you for your testimony. I understand, I think the bulk of at least the chairman's questions for you concerned the District of Columbia bill. You're here as a representative of the Department of Interior, I presume, to testify with respect to all 5 bills that we're considering, not just the District of Columbia bill, but the bill regarding wildfire casualty assistance for wildland firefighters who've tragically lost their lives, and the other bills that we're considering today. Is that a fair statement?
Thanks for the question, Congressman. I would have to refer to the prepared statement that was delivered by the department on the other bills.
Okay, well, why don't I give it a shot? Because I've got a lot of questions about the other 4 bills that we're considering. All of them are important bills. Secretary Burgum has an obligation to produce a witness to this committee that can answer in a cogent way questions that members might have about these other bills that you heard members of Congress testify to previously. And so I will go ahead and give that a shot here, but suffice to say that if that's not the case, then I think it's a question that the chairman of this subcommittee and the chairman of the full committee need to answer, because these other bills are equally important to the bill that they have decided to kind of zero in on for purposes of this hearing. I wanted to ask about H.R. 5063, the Safe Beaches, Safe Swimmers Act from Representative Kiggins of Virginia. And I guess my first question is, do you agree with the premise that there's a staffing shortage, lifeguard staffing shortage in our national parks and public lands more broadly?
Again, I'd have to refer to the written testimony and defer to my other colleagues at the Department of Interior, but we couldn't take those questions back to have them answered.
Okay, so I guess your position is essentially that any question on any other bill that this committee is considering but the District of Columbia bill isn't a question you're going to answer or prepared to answer, and that question has to go back to the Department of Interior?
Will the gentleman yield?
Sure.
We've got a third panel with witnesses to talk about those.
Oh, I understand we have a third panel with witnesses to talk about this bill. I'd like to hear the administration's position regarding the Casualty Assistance Program. I'd like to hear the administration's position regarding the leasing bill that is before this committee in terms of giving added flexibility and discretion to your boss, the Secretary of the Interior, regarding the leasing of public lands. Am I mistaken that are there other administration witnesses that are testifying today? And if so, I apologize if that's...
The Department of Interior has provided in-person witnesses and statements for the record as is standard practice.
In-person witnesses for these other 4 bills?
No,
I think your teammate here is saying no. Yeah, no, I understand
They've
they've given
provided
it.
statements for the
Sure,
record, but we do have an in-person witness for 5103.
Okay, so I'll reclaim my time. I have the department statement, so I've got 2 paragraphs here about each bill. That's it. You've decided. Either the chairman has given this direction. Maybe I'll ask the chairman. Did you all tell the Department of Interior, look, for this hearing, we only need a witness on our DC crime bill? The other bills regarding firefighter casualty programs or public lands leasing, don't worry about those? I'm happy to yield to the chairman.
As you're aware, we had 2 weeks or not 2 weeks, we had a long shutdown. The department needs time to respond. They did respond with written testimony, and they provided a witness for one of the bills.
So just coincidentally, they decided to respond with this witness on this bill that you all have decided to make a messaging priority for the Republican caucus. But on these other bills, the administration needs more time. This is the first hearing that we've had in 2 months. I think the Department of Interior can find a way, and this is not meant as a slight against you, Director, because I understand you have a particular role in the department, and I, frankly, did not expect you to be able to, answer questions about the wide variety of bills that this committee has noticed for a hearing today. But my frustration is that the administration ought to produce a witness that can answer questions about these other bills that the Republican majority has decided to advance as part of this legislative hearing. And I think that that's, in my view, it disrespects those members in terms of our ability to be able to fairly consider the bills that are considered. I was open to supporting, just by way of example, I appreciate the chairman's indulgence, the subcommittee chairman's indulgence. I was open to supporting
Gentleman's time is expired.
Mr. Murphy's, may I finish my, I was, considering supporting Mr. Murphy's legislation and had some questions that I wanted to ask the Department of Interior about. I don't know how I can, in good faith, support the markup of that bill when I can't ask the administration any questions about it. So with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. And I'll recognize the gentlelady from Utah, Ms. Malloy, for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director McLean, thank you for being here today. I appreciate your time. It probably goes without saying, but everybody up here spends a lot of time in Washington, D.C. None of us live here, but we fly here for work. And so we all have a really personal interest in the safety in the District of Columbia. And I appreciate you being here to testify about it. You have jurisdiction over national parks here in the nation's capital. I represent Utah. We know a thing or two about national parks. My constituents are used to spending a lot of time in national parks. And I don't know that it's ever occurred to any of them that a national park might be a place where they have to worry about violent crime or violent protests. And my fear is that my constituents will stop traveling here, that they won't come here and participate in seeing the nation's capital and learning about our history if they have a fear that coming here is going to mean that they'll get caught in violent crime, as has been described in other testimonies. So my question for you, my first question is, how can the Department of Interior work with other federal agencies to ensure the effective removal of homeless encampments from Park Service managed parks while maintaining public safety? And we've kind of talked around it, but we haven't addressed it directly yet.
Thank you, Congresswoman, for the question. The National Park Service, the United States Park Police, are the stewards of our America's Front Yard, as I mentioned previously. So proud of the responsibility and the duty that we have to ensure that people from around this globe come and visit our nation's capital. It needs to be safe, clean, and needs to be beautiful. The National Park Service also does an amazing job in coordinating with the District of Columbia resources. The Department of Interior nor the National Park Service have a social service responsibility, but they definitely understand the humane way to deal with people that live in encampments on our public lands. So the level of coordination and the deliberate interaction with people living in these encampments and the District of Columbia's services is bar none the most humane way to deal with encampments that are not beneficial to public safety. They actually produce a public safety hazard and the health of the person living in the encampment, but also the surrounding community and those that visit. So the responsibility is there. The National Park Service does an amazing job. Members of the United States Park Police handle the enforcement aspect of it, but it's definitely a duty that we take very, very seriously in the Department of Interior.
Thank you. Follow-up question that's similar. Can you talk about how the Department of Interior plans to coordinate with local and federal agencies to ensure safety in areas under Park Service management that have really high visitation rates by the public, like the National Mall and Lafayette Park?
Yes, thank you for that question as well. I believe the National Park Service already does an amazing job in working with the District of Columbia, the National Capital Planning Commission, the Fine Arts Commission, and public-private sector partners to ensure that we have an interagency approach to keeping DC safe and beautiful, from encampments to enforcement to beautification projects. This is what the National Park Service does for a living. They're very proud of that mission, and we can't do it without our interagency federal partners, but also our District of Columbia and private sector partners as well.
Thank you. I agree that the National Park Service manages America's front yard, and our capital city and our parks are some of the most well-known, iconic places we have in this country, and they should be safe and walkable for all Americans and for visitors to this country. I appreciate the work you do, and with that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields. I now recognize the gentlelady from Washington, Ms. Randall, for her questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. McLean, for joining us. Hoping you can answer these questions. My first is immigration enforcement listed in the job description for law enforcement officers at the Department of Interior?
No, it's not. It's the members of the United States Park Police are primarily focused on public safety in our national parks.
Thank you. And does having law enforcement officers from the Bureau of Land Management, Fish and Wildlife, or the National Park Service conducting immigration enforcement or coordinating with immigration enforcement further your mission of increasing public trust?
And thank you for the question. And just to clarify, immigration role and responsibility does lie with Department of Homeland Security. Interior Department focuses on our public lands and public safety and protection of our resources. So they do not enforce immigration law in the District of Columbia.
So I represent the Olympic Peninsula. We have a beautiful national park, and it's very clear from the community members that I have spoken with who are regular visitors of the parks, just like my colleagues, constituents in Utah who are very familiar with our wilderness and the majesty that we are so lucky to have in this country, that my constituents feel erosion of public trust when federal lands agencies, though they are not responsible for, are involved with law enforcement and immigration enforcement activity. I have some severe concerns that the Make the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful Act doesn't make our communities safer, but will continue eroding the trust that so many of my constituents are already losing. When you dig into what the bill does, we see it's a attempt by the majority party to assert more federal government bureaucracy into decisions that should be made at the local level. This bill would compel DC officials to coordinate and cooperate with Trump's cruel and reckless immigration agenda, an agenda that is clearly unpopular in any poll you see. And my community knows firsthand the harms of forcing local authorities to conduct immigration enforcement instead of focusing on their job to keep us safe in our public lands and to protect our public lands. For several months during this summer and into the fall, fire crews fought to contain the Bear Gulch fire, which was more than 10,000 acres, near 20,000 at its highest burning capacity. One day, when these crews showed up to battle fires, 44 crew members were forced to stand in line for hours as immigration enforcement officers questioned them and reviewed their IDs, preventing them from fighting the fire. Now, Customs and Border Patrol were technically the conductors of that work, which is outside of their usual scope of enforcement as well. But they came at the request of BLM and the U.S. Forest Service, which makes me wonder if the Department of Interior is not contrary to the mission, already engaged in immigration enforcement policy. And we know that Secretary Noem just yesterday encouraged a full travel ban that would severely impact the park tourism, certainly at the Olympic National Park, but at national parks across our country and here in the District of Columbia, as folks are afraid to come to our beautiful country to explore our forests and our mountains because they are worried about being rounded up. And the American people do not want tourists and grandmothers and home care workers and roofers rounded up and detained, and they certainly don't want forestry workers and national parks employees to be complicit in this anti-immigration agenda. Mr. McLean, in light of the incident at the Bear Gulch Fire in my district, does DOI view immigration enforcement as compatible with timely, effective emergency management?
Thank you for the question. I don't have particular information on the particular matter that you're talking about regarding Bureau of Land Management. But what I can say is the Department of Interior plays a unique role in the District of Columbia. It has unique mission and authority, and work with all of our interagency partners across the Department of Justice and Department of Homeland Security. While we do not focus on enforcement of immigration law or terrorism-related offenses that the FBI has purview over, we definitely feel that we are part of the interagency that enforce the laws in this country.
Thank you. I hope the department will be able to remain focused on its main mission and continue increasing public trust, which I fear is not happening right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Gentlelady's time has expired, and I'll recognize the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Stauber.
Thank you, Chairman Tiffany. Mr. McLean, thank you for testifying today, and I appreciate the Trump administration's work to address issues of crime and neglect in our nation's capital. And I'm glad to see the administration supporting H.R. 5103, which codifies many of the provisions of President Trump's executive order making the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful Act. As you outlined in your testimony, the District of Columbia is a patchwork of different jurisdictions, both in regard to public property, ownership, and law enforcement jurisdiction. Can you expand upon the challenges the U.S. Park Police and other federal law enforcement agencies face because of this patchwork of overlapping jurisdictions?
I really appreciate the question. I grew up as a member of the Park Police for about 28 years, so understanding the jurisdiction and authorities within this complex, dynamic nation's capital is something that we take pride in. We also take pride in every partner in the District of Columbia has a role, whether you're a federal interagency partner, a District of Columbia partner, or surrounding jurisdictions. So what it takes is constant communication, constant coordination. And what we see from the Department of the Interior is that the executive order started enhancing that coordination. We see this bill as codifying and really a stabilizing framework that require us to work together. I'm not saying we don't work together now. The members of the United States Park Police and all of our interagency partners work on a daily basis. But what the EO and the bill did was to create an interagency proactive response in that task force. So leveraging the unique authorities and jurisdictions from the beginning of enforcement through its prosecution allows that seamless communication, transfer of knowledge and authority to be on the ground proactively and not reacting to a situation where a law enforcement agency has to reach out to another, such as the FBI, to support
And
that.
would H.R. 5103 help address the challenges that you just described?
Yes, the department believes that the bill will codify and further enhance what already occurs in the District of Columbia.
And so, do the U.S. Park Police carry weapons?
Yes, they do.
So if there was, if the U.S. Park Police was asked to assist in an emergency off U.S. Park land or your jurisdiction, would you go? Would your officers go?
Thanks for the question. And to really drill down into the unique nature of the United States Park Police, they have the same authority and police powers as a member of the Metropolitan Police Department. So what this does, the
So if there's
positions-
what I'm getting at, Director McLean, is if there was an issue not in your jurisdiction and an officer needed help, and you had officers nearby, would they be authorized to go help that other law enforcement officer in need of help?
Yes, they would. And again, that's what brings a great dynamic to making DC safe and beautiful. About 25% of the District of Columbia is federal parkland, right? And this unique jurisdiction authority allows the U.S. Park Police to work side by side.
They don't have to call the
enforcement action.
supervisor and say, this is U.S. Park Police, Metro Police is asking for help.
They
Can
do
we
not.
go? They do not.
They already have the authority.
Can you please speak to the retention issues of U.S. Park Police and other law enforcement divisions within the Department of the Interior face?
Yeah, really appreciate that question. The U.S. Park Police and all of the Bureau law enforcement program across the Department of Interior are facing the same thing that state, local, federal agencies are facing. The ability to recruit amazingly talented people and retain them.
Why do you think
through a
that is?
25-year.
Why do you think that is?
The department is super supportive of law enforcement, but what we've seen over the years is that folks are not as interested in becoming members of law enforcement as they were
Why do you think
previously.
that is? Why do you think that is? I want to drill down. Why do you think that law enforcement's been demonized?
Really believe that it's the somewhat the scrutiny of the law enforcement profession is extremely noble profession, which I've done for 34 years. The violence that the District of Columbia and other cities have seen against its law
What you're
enforcement
describing is the
officers.
defund the police movement. That's been devastating to all law enforcement agencies in our local communities, in our state, in our federal government. I will share that thank you for that. I will share that I believe one of the things that Congress can do to help these retention issues is pass H.R. 1260, the U.S. Park Police Modernization Act, which I am proud to support. This would help streamline and modernize the pay schedule, promotion steps, and recruitment, correction and retirement structure for the U.S. Park Police. I hope that the Department of the Interior will support this legislation as well. And Mr. McLean, I want to thank you for your service, your sacrifice, and for your time today. And I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired, and I'll recognize Dr. Kennedy for his questioning.
Thank you, Chairman Tiffany, for convening this, and Director McLean, thank you for being with us to testify today. The U.S. Park Police are essential in keeping our national parks and our federal lands safe, including right here in our nation's capital, which I spend all too much time here at this place now, and I'm grateful for your service to help us with that. These officers protect millions of visitors, support local law enforcement, and respond to emergencies in some of our most visible public spaces. Their work is vital in ensuring these areas remain secure, open, and welcoming to all. So, Director McLean, how would enhanced coordination between the U.S. Park Police, the Metropolitan Police Department, and other federal agencies improve public safety throughout our city?
It's a force multiplier. The number of law enforcement agencies within this city share a responsibility to protect visiting public, community members, federal workers here in the District of Columbia. So if you think about the agencies that patrol our city streets, from the U.S. Park Police to the Metropolitan Police Department to the transit police officers, right? This is an ability to leverage all the unique authorities and capacity and capabilities across our nation's capital. So enhancing the staffing of these organizations, enhancing the support through technology and bills such as this to codify the coordination just only enhances the safety of the citizens here at the District of Columbia and the global visitation that we see on a yearly basis.
Thank you for doing that. I've been in town for about a year now as a freshman legislator, and during that time, my chief of staff in the lobby of the building in which he lives has had 2 shootings just within a mile of where we sit right now that were in the lobby of the building in which he resides. And in addition to that, a person that I spend time with who helps me with fundraising actually told me that his cousin right outside of where we regularly meet for that process was carjacked right out front, and that's within a half mile of where we are right now. So this is not a theoretical discussion that we're having today. This city has had problems, and it's having less problems now as a result of the efforts of yourself and the Trump administration. But also from your perspective, what are the immediate steps that would make the most difference as we try to enhance the safety of the citizens that wander the halls of these areas and also in the outdoor areas that they go. What are the most compelling immediate steps that we can take to enhance safety in this area?
Thank you for that question. And I think the executive order in combination with the bill, and then just the general support from the departments across the executive branch. Secretary Burgum is extremely supportive of our law enforcement officers across the department, not only the United States Park Police, and we've instituted recruiting and retention incentives to support the hiring of more park police officers, and looking forward to supporting all of the bureaus and offices across the Department of Interior in the same way. That way they feel that their dedication, their service, their sacrifice is valued by the department. But when you see the interagency efforts such as these, I think it resonates loudly with our law enforcement officers. And then that enhances the public trust as we serve the community members, that we're there for a purpose. We stand in the way between victims of violent crimes and the chaos that we see in the District of Columbia. And I believe that's the way to support our law enforcement officers across the interagency.
Thank you, and I appreciate your effort. I'm a doctor by profession, and the healing professions get a lot of respect. I don't believe that we've done a good job in the past several years demonstrating our societal gratitude to you and those that you represent here today in your testimony for providing something that is a compelling societal need of safety from the chaotic and violent forces that are out there, as reflected just a few days ago with the assassination, outright assassination not far from here, of 2 National Guard individuals who are here voluntarily to serve the people of our country. This is a place that attracts all sorts of people from all over the world. Most of them come here for good, but there are nefarious influences that come here as well. And you, allied with our National Guard as well as our other police forces, are societally serving people in a way that I don't think a lot of times we appreciate until disaster strikes. So thank you very much for what you do. Mr. Chair, thank you for convening this opportunity for us to discuss this important effort. So thank you, and with that, I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired, and now I'm going to take a couple minutes for questioning from the chair here, Director McLean. So first of all, there's been 96 removals of encampments here in Washington, D.C., according to the records that I've seen under the Trump administration. And what differences have you observed in crime since that happened? I think that includes, you see the numbers behind us here. Have you observed a difference in crime here in Washington, D.C.?
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. What I would say is that we don't track crime trends based on single enforcement actions, but what I can tell you with the over 90 encampments that have been cleared off of public lands here in the District of Columbia is that we see a clean, a safer, a more stable environment for visitors, for community members to visit our nation's capital, right? Enjoy the beauty of visiting our country, but also for the American people to have pride in something that being both safe and beautiful is what National Park Service, is what the Department of Interior strives to achieve every single day.
I want to give you a hypothetical. Let's say you're in a national park and somebody is setting an illegal fire in a national park, and one of the national park officers interdicts that person. Is that something that they would do by practice, that this is an illegal fire and they're going to stop it from continuing to burn? Would that be an action they take?
Yes, and the National Park Service is a great example of public lands that normally restrict fires.
And would it matter whether that person was here in this country legally or illegally, that the officer would take action?
No, members of the Department of Interior take action based on the offense and take the enforcement action.
So in other words, you would take that action if that person was here illegally also, correct?
Correct.
Some people could construe that as taking action against an illegal alien, taking an official action of the United States government against someone who is an illegal alien. It could be construed that way, correct?
Although it could be, the members of law enforcement within the Department of Interior are guided by principles and policies in protecting public lands, and no matter
So you
the
don't care
legal
what, you
status.
don't care whether they're here illegally or legally. My point being that this notion that taking action against an illegal alien, the National Park Service is going to do their job, whether that person is here legally or illegally. That would be the point that I'm attempting to make here. I just want to comment also about the cruel agenda that phrase was just used a few minutes ago. Let me tell you what's cruel, is when you do not do the proper job of vetting 70,000 people to come into our country from the terrorism hotbed of the world, and then have one of those people come to the nation's capital and shoot in cold blood a West Virginia National Guardsman, Sarah Beckstrom. That's cruel, because they had a Thanksgiving that they were not giving thanks for in the Beckstrom family. And I would say it's the same with the Wolf family. The gentleman who was hanging on by a thread at this point in very bad condition, his family suffered the same cruel fate over Thanksgiving. The cruel agenda we had was bringing in 70,000 people and not vetting them whether they were going to be a safety hazard to the people of the United States of America or not. I'll just close with this. Director McLean, should the people of the United States of America, should they have an expectation of having a safe Washington, D.C. that they can travel freely in, whether they live here or not?
Really appreciate that question. It's the heart of what law enforcement officers do. It's the heart of what the Department of the Interior, the National Park Service do to ensure our special and symbolic places are accessible to not only the American people, but from people around the globe. So public safety is at the heart and center of that, and it's so inextricably linked with the beauty of our nation's capital. You can't remove it. Members of the United States Park Police serve our country every single day in protecting the people, but also work side by side with the National Park Service to make sure hedges are trimmed, there's appropriate lighting in our national parks to ensure public safety. So when we talk about safety and beauty, it is inextricably linked. Again, reverting back to the executive order and the bill in question.
Thank you for your work, and we look forward to getting greater ability to be able to coordinate law enforcement here in the United States Capitol to make this a safe place once again for the people of the United States of America and the visitors that choose to visit our country legally. If there are no further questions, we will now move on to our third and final panel. I'd like to thank the witness for your testimony. You're now dismissed. While the clerk resets our witness table, I will remind the witnesses under committee rules they must limit their oral statements to 5 minutes, but their entire statement will appear in the hearing record. I'd also like to remind our witnesses of the timing lights, which will turn red at the end of your 5-minute statement, and to please remember to turn on your microphone. As with the second panel, I will allow all witnesses to testify before member questioning. It is good to have you all here. First, I want to introduce Mr. Greg Pemberton, Chairman Of the DC Police Union, Chairman Pemberton, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Chairman, Ranking Member, members of the subcommittee. My name is Gregory Pemberton. I'm the president of the DC Police Union Lodge 2, representing roughly 3,000 officers, detectives, and sergeants of the Metropolitan Police Department. I've served the city for more than 20 years. From this experience, I'm confident that H.R. 5103 can play a vital role in enhancing public safety in the District of Columbia. Let me be direct. The nation's capital is in crisis. Crime remains out of control, and our police department is dangerously understaffed. That did not happen by accident. It is the result of radical anti-police laws and rhetoric that began in 2020. In Washington, D.C., the City Council stripped away officer rights, restricted proven tools, and openly celebrated defunding. The results speak for themselves. In 2020, the MPD had nearly 3,900 sworn members. Today, we are under 3,200, the lowest in half a century, leaving us with more than 800 vacancies for the position of sworn officer. The impact on public safety has been devastating. Between 2020 and 2023, homicides surged, carjackings doubled, robberies spiked, and entire neighborhoods became unsafe. While some progress has been made this year, violent crime is still up 15% from pre-2020 levels, and our staffing shortages continue to hinder effective policing across the district, including on federal lands. The crisis extends directly to the federal parks and public spaces under this subcommittee's oversight. The National Mall, monuments, memorials, and other federal properties are not just symbols of our democracy, they are active public spaces visited by millions annually. Yet these areas have become increasingly vulnerable to vandalism, graffiti, litter, and criminal activity that undermines their safety and cleanliness. In 2024 alone, MPD responded to more than 500 incidents on or adjacent to federal parklands, including assaults, thefts, and defacement of monuments. Graffiti removal requests in these areas have risen 40% since 2020, often tied to protests or opportunistic crime that spills over from surrounding neighborhoods. Our ability to patrol and maintain safety in these federal spaces is severely compromised by MPD's staffing crisis. Federal parks fall primarily under the jurisdiction of the United States Park Police, but effective policing in the district requires close cooperation between MPD and the U.S. Park Police. MPD officers frequently assist U.S. Park Police in responding to emergencies, crowd control, and routine patrols on federal lands, especially where boundaries blur with city streets and sidewalks. MPD and U.S. Park Police often patrol areas like Meridian Hill Park, where 11 acres of parks and gardens are situated among the densely populated surrounding neighborhoods. However, with our ranks depleted, we have been unable to provide the level of support needed. Response times to incidents on the National Mall have increased by 25% in the last 2 years, as MPD units are stretched thin covering citywide calls. This leaves federal parks more exposed to crimes like robberies and carjackings, which have targeted tourists and visitors in areas like the Tidal Basin and near the Lincoln Memorial. Cleanliness and safety go hand in hand. Neglected spaces, littered sidewalks, vandalized statues, and overgrown areas signal disorder and invite criminal behavior. We've seen this in action. Unclean federal parks become hotspots for illegal encampments, drug use, and violent encounters. MPD's crime suppression teams would partner with U.S. Park Police for joint operations have been reduced to vacancies, limiting our joint efforts to clear graffiti, remove debris, and deter crime. Without adequate staffing, these collaborative patrols happen less frequently, allowing problems to fester and erode the dignity of these national treasures. This is why the DC Police Union strongly supports H.R. 5103, the Make the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful Act. This bill establishes a much-needed program under the Secretary of the Interior to beautify the district. By requiring consultation with key stakeholders like the Attorney General, the Mayor, federal agency heads, and even the Chief of Police and the Police Union, it fosters interagency cooperation essential for success. Critically, the program will enhance MPD's partnership with the U.S. Park Police, allowing us to better align resources for patrolling federal lands. The bill's creation of the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful Commission is equally vital. The executive branch body will provide ongoing oversight and planning, ensuring federal and local officials work together to address these issues. It encourages private sector participation, which could bring additional resources for maintenance and security, something MPD and U.S. Park Police desperately need. By tying beautification to safety, H.R. 5103 recognizes that clean, well-maintained federal parks deter crime and protect visitors, residents, and the symbolic heart of our nation. The lesson is clear. When city leaders undermine police, communities, and national landmarks suffer. If this is not corrected, the crisis will deepen. I urge Congress to pass H.R. 5103 to support cooperation between all stakeholders. Officers want nothing more than to protect these cherished spaces, but they cannot do it without help from elected officials. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I welcome any questions the subcommittee may have.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman Pemberton. I will now recognize Mr. Kenneth Spencer III, Chief of Staff of the United States Park Police Fraternal Order of Police. Mr. Spencer, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
It's not working. There it goes. Good morning, Chairman Tiffany, Ranking Member Neguse, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Kenneth Spencer, and I serve as a Master Patrol Officer with the United States Park Police and as Government Affairs Chief of Staff for the United States Park Police FOP. Our organization represents approximately 350 officers of the U.S. Park Police in D.C., New York, and San Francisco. Before I say anything else about legislation or statistics, I want to speak from the heart about what happened on November 26, when 2 members of the National Guard were shot while standing post here in D.C. in support of the President's Make the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful initiative. One of those soldiers has since died from her injuries, and the other remains seriously wounded. They were out there to protect this city and its people. On behalf of the officers I represent, I want to express our deepest condolences and prayers for them and their families. Their sacrifice is a stark reminder that making DC safe and beautiful is not an abstract slogan. It is a dangerous work that men and women in uniform do every single day and night. I also want to recognize Ms. Cook, who is appearing on this panel. Ms. Cook is a grandmother whose grandson was murdered on the streets of this city. She has been clear that the criminal justice system did not work to deliver justice in this case because weak sentencing and limited accountability. As a career law enforcement officer and as a father, I am deeply sorry for her loss. Her family's experience is a painful example of what happens when violence outpaces the system's ability to respond when serious crimes are not met with serious consequences. The U.S. Park Police was created in 1791 and has full police authority throughout D.C. We share jurisdiction with the Metropolitan Police Department and work with them every day, from the National Mall to federal parkways and neighborhoods. On an average day, we protect roughly 160,000 visitors, patrol more than 30,000 acres of federal land, and safeguard icons like the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, and the Jefferson Memorial. D.C. is a wonderful city, but in recent years has faced a very real crime crisis. Homicides rose sharply after 2019, and carjackings and other violent offenses surged to levels that are simply not acceptable for the capital of the United States. At the same time, U.S. Park Police staffing has fallen to levels not seen in decades. Experts have said that we need at least 650 officers to meet our essential missions. Today, we are well below that number, and in the nation's capital, the national capital region, we are hundreds of officers short of the minimum staffing level that we need, that our own agency says that we need to have. That is why the U.S. Park Police FOP strongly supports H.R. 5103, Make the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful Act, and why we believe its success is directly tied to H.R. 1260, the U.S. Park Police Modernization Act. H.R. 5103 sets direction. It recognizes that we must clean up and protect federal and district facilities, monuments, parks, highways, transit systems, and other public spaces, and it creates a commission that is specifically charged with facilitating a more robust federal law enforcement presence on the National Mall, at Union Station, along our parkways, and in other key locations. But you cannot have a more robust federal law enforcement presence with yesterday's staffing and yesterday's pay structure. H.R. 1260 is the piece that allows us to recruit and retain the officers who will actually stand the post and walk the beats that H.R. 5103 envisions. It would finally put the U.S. Park Police pay, benefits, and retirement on par with other federal agencies like the U.S. Capitol Police and the United States Secret Service Uniform Division. Without that reform, we will continue to lose good officers to better paying agencies, and we will not be able to fill the ranks that this city needs. These are bipartisan bills, and I want to thank members who have led that effort. Representative Nicole Maliotakis and Representative Josh Gottheimer have worked together across party lines to champion H.R. 1260 and to support the broader effort to make this city safer. Representative Pete Stauber, a co-sponsor and a former law enforcement officer himself, understands in a very personal way what it means to put on the uniform, answer calls, and worry about whether you will make it home at the end of your shift. The officers I represent are grateful for their leadership. I also want to thank Secretary Burgum and his team at the Department of Interior. Secretary Burgum came out and did a ride-along with our officers. He has listened to our concerns, supported a hiring surge, and shown real interest in restoring the strength of the U.S. Park Police. We appreciate that. But we also know that support now has to take the form of backing for H.R. 5103 and H.R. 1260, and for the appropriations needed to make them real. On behalf of the men and women of the U.S. Park Police, I respectfully ask this committee and the full House to move both bills quickly forward so that we can do our part in making D.C. safe and beautiful again. Thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Spencer. I'll now recognize Ms. Forlicia, am I saying that correct? Yes. Forlicia Cook, a native Washingtonian who's been personally
you're saying it
affected
correct.
by violent crime for her testimony. Ms. Cook, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank the honorable representatives for taking the time to listen to me and my family and represent to hear our concerns regarding the issues of the judiciary system in the District of Columbia. I have shared a document outlining the events that occurred during the investigation, charges, trial, and conviction related to the murder of my grandson, Marty William McMillan. The devastation it caused our family, deeply affect our family. It highlights the urgency of the need to reform the broken judiciary system. I never realized this system was so flawed until I became involved in the process surrounding the murder case. I was horrified by what I witnessed and how the system treats the families of murder victims like mine. It was shocking to see how easily some individuals who commit murder can return to the streets without facing adequate consequences. I understand why people feel emboldened to kill without fear of repercussions. I'm sorry, y'all. I am truly grateful with the administration for bringing these laws to light. It has far been too long since these issues have been addressed. My family have not received justice for the horrific murder of my grandson. Was shot 7 times. He was killed at 23 years old. His murderer was 40 years old, was only charged with second-degree murder, may serve a total of 7 years for my grandson's death, with 5 of those potentially served as probation. This is not justice. These laws need to change to ensure the killers think twice before pulling the trigger. There is so much more to the story that I do not have time to share, but I have attached my testimony. My name is Felicia Cook, and I'm the grandmother of Marty McMillan. I just want to add to this that if you don't give the killers a reason to not kill, then why are they going to stop? What our president is doing about changing the laws in the district behind murder is necessary. Really it is. And you may not understand, and Lord knows I hope that it don't knock on your door before you do. We need to let these killers know, we need to send a message that killing is worse, okay? If you kill somebody, then hey, the consequences, you do life or something else. You take a life, you do life. My grandson never had an opportunity. I will never hear his voice again. I will never see him again. And I had to live with this, and I've been living with it for 8 years, and it don't go away. I just get stronger how I deal with it. 2 massive heart attacks behind it. Thank you for listening, Senators. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And President Trump, he's doing it. Let him do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. I now want to introduce Mr. Bob Woodard, Chairman of the Dare County Board of Commissioners in Dare County, North Carolina. Chairman Woodard. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairman, ranking members of the subcommittee, good morning. Chairman, ranking members and members of the subcommittee, good morning. Bob Woodard. I've had the honor of serving as chairman of the Dare County Board of Commissioners for the past 11 years in North Carolina. I want to thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to provide a local perspective on H.R. 4931, the National Park System Long-Term Lease Investment Act. First and foremost, I want to express my appreciation for your consideration of this most important bill. From the standpoint of a local government leader, I can assure you that the legislation will make a meaningful difference, not only in Dare County, but in communities across the country where public-private partnerships with the National Park Service are vital to local economies and visitors' experiences. Let me share with you an example close to home. In Dare County, we're proud of a model partnership at the Oregon Inlet Fishing Center, which is located within the Cape Hatteras National Seashore. A local entrepreneur has stepped forward and made a substantial capital investment in this facility. They have constructed a fishing center and carried out significant infrastructure improvements, investments that have improved service for our commercial and recreational fishermen, visitors, and local economy alike. As chairman of the Dare County Board of Commissioners, I can tell you that my colleagues and I have been very impressed with the results. The partnership has been a resounding success. I've also spoken with the National Park Service Superintendent for Cape Hatteras, and he too has praised the quality and impact of this collaboration. It is, in every sense, as our congressman has stated, a win-win for our county, for the National Park Service, and for the millions of visitors who come to the Outer Banks each year. I firmly believe it should serve as a model for the rest of the entire country. But here's the problem. The fishing center is now 5 years into a 20-year lease. The operator has expressed a desire to extend the lease so that they can protect their investment and continue to build upon their success. Unfortunately, under current law, that simply is not possible. The only option is to open the lease to a new competitive bidding process. That makes no sense for a partner who has already invested millions of dollars in long-term improvements, and it discourages others from pursuing the kind of meaningful investment that the National Park Service so desperately needs. H.R. 4931 provides a straightforward solution. It would give the Secretary of the Interior, acting through the Director of the National Park Service, the authority to extend an existing lease if it has been in place at least 5 years. And if the director determines that such an extension is in the best interest of the Park Service. This bill does not require extensions. It simply gives the Park Service the flexibility to make smart, practical decisions when circumstances warrant it. In doing so, I would provide this certainty that private partners need in order to invest wisely, while still preserving the authority of the National Park Service to act in the public's interest. In closing, I urge you to support H.R. 4931. In Dare County, we have firsthand the tremendous benefits of public-private partnerships when they are given room to succeed. By passing this legislation, you will empower the National Park Service to nurture those partnerships, encourage responsible investment, and ensure facilities like the Oregon Inlet Fishing Center continue to thrive for generations to come. Again, thank you for your time, your commitment to strengthening the National Park Service, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chairman Woodard. I'll now recognize Ms. Denise Bowden, Mayor of the town of Chincoteague. You ever have a spelling contest in town?
We have.
Yeah.
We have.
Chincoteague, Virginia. Mayor Bowden, you are recognized for 5 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to speak on Representative Kiggins's H.R. Bill 5063. Assateague Island, Virginia, which is owned by the federal government, is such a valuable resource for recreation, not only to our locals, but also to our 1 million plus visitors each year. Between the golden sands of sunbathing, the rich fishing areas, to the swimmers and surfers, and to even the beachcombers and bird watchers, the area is populated heavily during peak summer season. There have always been lifeguards on Assateague Island, Virginia, for as far back as I can remember to my childhood. They play such a vital role in the safety of those mentioned above, and this past summer it was very difficult not having them in place for the whole part of the summer season. They have saved countless lives and have provided first aid in many situations. The nearest rescue squad is on neighboring Chincoteague Island, Virginia, which, while not far away, traffic getting to Assateague Island can make it exceedingly difficult in getting to the patient or drowning victim in a timely manner, given all the tourism that is there. We had people reach out to the town this past summer to let us know that they were rethinking their trip to Chincoteague due to the lack of a safe experience at the beach itself. As you know, Chincoteague Island is dependent on tourist dollars, along with the surrounding eastern shore. We do not want to lose revenue in any circumstances. The National Park Service ended up funding the majority of the lifeguard services this past summer, with the town of Chincoteague and Accomack County picking up the rest of the tab for contracted services out of Virginia Beach, Virginia, to which the town nor the county has been reimbursed. However, an agreement could not be reached until well into the summer season, cutting lifeguard coverage short for most of the summer. We cannot afford to do that again, nor should we have to. In total, there was only 35 days of coverage. Funding lifeguards is critical. It is paramount and should take precedence for the summer seasons on this federal land. Saving dollars is one thing. Saving lives is a whole different story. You cannot put a price tag on someone's life, especially if they're just trying to enjoy that life sitting on a beautiful beach with their family and friends. And I thank you and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mayor Bowden. I'd now like to recognize Dr. Matt Ron, Founder and Research Director at the Wildfire Conservancy. Dr. Ron, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Chair and members of the committee, my name is Dr. Matt Ron. Like I said, I'm the director for the Wildfire Conservancy, an organization dedicated to improving attack effectiveness and the health and safety of our firefighters in the United States. I'm here strongly in support of H.R. 4671. The bill addresses one of the most painful gaps in federal wildfire operations, the absence of a clear, compassionate, and standardized system for supporting families after catastrophic injuries, severe occupational illness, or line-of-duty deaths. Wildfire incidents, as you know, are becoming more severe and more lethal every year. Firefighters now face extreme conditions that include sustained peak heart rates, dangerously high core body temperatures, rapid respiratory rates, severe dehydration, and on top of all that, they endure constant exposure to toxic, hazardous, and carcinogenic substances. In short, they're working in environments no human was ever meant to endure. For families, the impacts are devastating. They often have no roadmap for navigating the federal benefits, medical transfers, or crisis support. Many of them become de facto case managers overnight, something no family should ever have to shoulder while dealing with trauma or loss. H.R. 4671 finally changes that. It creates a unified casualty assistance program, ensures trained personnel are available, provides travel reimbursement, improves interagency coordination, and establishes long-term case management. These are critical and deeply overdue reforms. In my written testimony, I not only commend the significant progress being made here, but also provide some humble recommendations for your consideration. This includes creating explicit links to occupational illness, surveillance, and exposure documentation, making medical screening, health monitoring, and clinical follow-ups available, making explicit the inclusion of chronic or delayed onset conditions, and including periodic statutory review cycles. I'd also recommend that a lot of the progress being made here today while focused on Department of Interior should also translate to our folks serving in the U.S. Forest Service. While this bill makes essential progress, I think we also have to acknowledge the fundamental truth that directly affects the long-term effectiveness of this legislation. If we do not address the root causes of injury, illness, and death among wildland firefighters, especially toxic respiratory and dermal exposures, we will tragically be administering the same kinds of assistance again and again without any efforts to stem the tide. Indeed, this bill is vital for families after a tragedy, but I humbly suggest that Congress must also act on what causes the tragedies in the first place. For decades, a myth persisted that wildland smoke was somehow cleaner than structural smoke because it comes from trees and vegetation. That's simply wrong. And today's fires aren't just burning vegetation, they're burning the communities in which we live in. And we've seen the devastation earlier this year in Los Angeles. Wildland crews are now exposed to the same and sometimes greater hazards than structural firefighters. Make no mistake, those exposures are tantamount and equivalent, if not exceeding, those exposures we saw in 9/11. Yet structural firefighters have had self-contained breathing apparatus, clean cab programs, decontamination protocols, and advanced PPE modernization over the last half century. Sadly, we can't say the same for wildland firefighting. They work 12 to 24-hour shifts, often for days or weeks at a time, often in the same gear without any meaningful respiratory protection, without field decontamination, without modern PPE designed explicitly for respiratory or dermal protection. These gaps are not theoretical. They are directly linked to the cancer, cardiac disease, respiratory illness, and early mortality of this workforce. And so I want to emphasize this committee's opportunity. We must reduce exposures, just not respond to them. We must prevent casualties, not just assist after they occur. And we must act now because we can either pay now or pay a lot more later. Ignoring exposure reduction means higher federal medical costs, higher disability claims, more long-term care, more early retirements, and more deaths, each one requiring exactly the services provided in H.R. 4671. This is a critical foundation, but it should be paired with legislation that invests in advanced respiratory protection, modernizing the PPE, creating clear field decontamination protocols and policies, and scientifically grounded exposure reduction practices. It's a cost-saving measure, it's a moral obligation, it's a matter of basic federal workforce protection. If we don't take these steps, the tragic outcomes that this bill addresses will continue unchecked. Let me close by saying that H.R. 4671 deserves strong support, and I commend the authors for their leadership. I urge this committee to see this bill as part of a larger necessary transformation, one that finally confronts the preventable hazards driving illness and death in our wildland firefighter force. Our firefighters are struggling to adapt to a new wildfire reality. It's time for our federal policies to adapt as well. Thank you, and I make myself available for any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Ron. I'd like to recognize Mr. Matt McClure, Executive Director at the Gateway Arch Park Foundation. Mr. McClure, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to present my testimony today in support of H.R. 5254, the Gateway Partnership Act of 2025. My name is Ryan McClure, and I have the honor of serving as Executive Director of Gateway Arch Park Foundation. The foundation is the nonprofit conservancy and official philanthropic partner of Gateway Arch National Park in St. Louis. We are dedicated to ensuring the park and neighboring downtown spaces will remain vital, welcoming, and well-supported resources for future generations. St. Louis's $380 million City Arch River project, which our foundation led and coordinated, is still, to this day, the largest private investment in a national park project in U.S. history. And it's a model of how public-private partnerships can succeed for a park and a community. With the project fully completed as of this year, Gateway Arch National Park has more event spaces than ever before, and demand to activate those spaces is prevalent. These are extraordinary assets for the National Park Service and the millions of residents, visitors, and businesses that are the heartbeat of the St. Louis region. Gateway Arch National Park is one of the only national parks embedded in the center of a major U.S. city, making it uniquely positioned to host corporate events, community gatherings, weddings, and other private events. Yet despite these opportunities, the park cannot currently meet the demand due to limited staffing and resources. It has been restricted in its ability to host private events over the last few years, and no private events are being hosted currently. Each potential event that passes means the park misses out on opportunities and additional revenue, and the St. Louis region misses out on economic impact. A recent study found that operations and visitors to Gateway Arch National Park and surroundings generated more than $572 million in economic impact for the St. Louis region. Imagine the additional impact if we could draw more people to the grounds for private events. In short, we have built world-class spaces. The public wants to host private events there, and yet the park is not able to take advantage of these opportunities. I'm here to tell you today that Gateway Arch Park Foundation is ready to help solve this challenge in service to our park and in service to our region. And with your support, we can make this a reality. HR 5254 will allow the foundation to assist Gateway Arch National Park by formally managing private event execution and marketing on behalf of the park. Having managed and marketed many events on the Arch grounds ourselves, we've garnered trust from both our park partners and from the community. We know what it takes to get the job done in a way that serves our park and our region at the same time. The same economic impact study I mentioned earlier found our foundation-produced events attracted nearly 76,000 visitors to Gateway Arch National Park and its surroundings in 2024, generating nearly $10 million in regional economic impact. To go back even further, after the City Arch River renovations of the Arch grounds were completed, we hosted 15 private events each year in 2018 and 2019 until the pandemic halted demand across the entire events industry. Today, that demand has returned, and the community is ready to re-engage. With our experience, the foundation is uniquely positioned to bridge the gap between the park's mission and the public's interest in private events at Gateway Arch National Park, which is why I am here today to seek your support. Current projections show private events at the park could generate up to $780,000 in additional annual revenue, creating more opportunities to support park operations, enhance visitor experiences, and bolster the surrounding regional economy. Even more, this legislation is about ensuring that a national treasure and St. Louis's calling card to the entire world can continue to be a place where people gather, celebrate, learn, and connect with our history and American culture. In conclusion, the foundation has the trust, expertise, and operational capacity to manage private events for the park. HR 5254 would provide the framework that will allow us to take this critical step forward for our park and our region. This will allow us to build on our strong track record of serving Gateway Arch National Park in monumental ways. I want to sincerely thank Representative Bell, Representative Wagner, and Representative Budzinski for their sponsorship of this legislation and support of our park. And thank you all for your consideration and your commitment to strengthening our national parks. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. McClure. And we are now going to take members' questions, and I'm going to start with myself for 5 minutes. First of all, Mr. McClure, real simply, private-public partnerships can work in our national parks?
Absolutely. I think we've shown that in St. Louis. The private, as I said, the private community stepped up in a major way and invested in the Arch grounds to the tune of $250 million in private funding from St. Louis. So that, yes, they work.
Same question, Mr. Woodard. Private-public partnerships can work in our national parks?
Absolutely, they can, Mr. Chairman. Absolutely, they can, Mr. Chairman, and it's proof at the Oregon Inlet Center that this has worked extremely well. We had a prior lessee that if we had not have had this go out and an entrepreneur come in and invest millions of dollars, we would have lost the commercial fishing fleet out of Oregon Inlet because the bulkheads, the infrastructure was deteriorated so bad that they were moving their vessel to another location. And this has come to fruition within the last several years, and it's been a huge success for us. And we now have a full fleet of commercial and recreational boaters in the inlet, in Oregon Inlet.
So it's benefited your region?
Pardon?
It's benefited your region?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Fishing industry is the oldest profession of mankind, and we're trying to keep it alive in Dare County.
Not everyone would say that's the oldest profession. Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Ms. Cook,
Yes.
did President Trump do the right thing by demanding law and order here in Washington, D.C.?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Absolutely.
Why was the murder of your grandson only charged as second degree?
Because they decided to take a plea. They didn't have confidence that they could go in the courtroom with a jury because the grand jury denied everything the detective tried to present and told him he could not use that. As a fact, he could not use the fact that my grandson, not only was he murdered, he was thrown out there on Suitland Parkway. It took us 9 months to find his remains. We were searching everywhere. And when they found him, do you know, if we have gone to court in front of the jury, the grand jury said we could not present that to the jury in court. So when they stripped us of everything, the attorney felt she had no choice but to offer a plea. The plea took it down from first degree, second degree, and also took a lot of the years off the time he would have had to do. So he already had 8 years he was doing for guns and drugs that was found in that apartment where he killed my grandson. But she couldn't bring the court with him moving the body.
How much time did he actually serve, the perpetrator?
I think he's going to serve, to me, it appears he may not serve no more 8 years. Whatever, he's got 16 years. That's all together with the time he's already serving. He had been in, by the time we got to court after COVID, he had been in jail about 6 years. So you kind of got to do the math, and I haven't done it, but I can't do it because every time I see that, it hurts.
So they were not able to find your grandson's body for 9 months?
We did not find him for 9 months. He was found by Park Service that was cleaning the highway. He was laying out there wrapped up in a comforter, thrown out there on Suitland Parkway. And me and my family, and we had search parties. I'm working with advocates, and we searched everywhere, walking through woods, in the alleys, everywhere we could walk through, and in D.C. and parts of Maryland, can you imagine? Walking out there searching, looking for your loved ones' remains. It was terrifying, but we never found him. We didn't know about Suitland Parkway. That's where he was found by a construction worker, a lawn worker, whatever you call them, that works out on the highway. That's where he was found.
Don't you think, whether it's Washington, D.C. or anywhere else in America, don't you think we Americans should have the expectation that we can travel on safe streets?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a Washingtonian. I'm 69 years old. I've lived in D.C. all my life. And I'm telling you, nobody has taken the initiative ever, and I must say it, to clean it up as what I have seen with this new administration. And I appreciate it. And I know it's a lot of Washingtonians, us that left D.C., moved to Maryland because we want to live in a safe community and hated to leave our home, is proud of what he's doing because he's making D.C. great again. And I don't care who likes it and who don't like it. I'm going to say it.
Thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
I yield, and I now recognize Ms. Dexter for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a pulmonologist, I have spent the past 2 decades treating patients, including firefighters, who suffer life-threatening health consequences that come, as we have heard today, with toxic exposures related to their work. Since Ranking Member Huffman and I held a forum on the health of wildland firefighters in September, my team and I have been hard at work trying to fully understand and address the health threats our wildland firefighters are increasingly dealing with. One of the ways we can show up for our firefighters is to make sure they have health insurance and disability coverage, especially when they get sick from their work exposures. HR 4671 would be a big step in the right direction, and I strongly support it. Unfortunately, as Dr. Ron has talked about, more needs to be done. Dr. Ron, thank you so much for being here today. It's good to see you again. You've been kind to answer our team's questions and work with us on our package that we are developing. And we have a wide range of improvements that we need to bring forward protection for those who protect us. I want to ask you about some of our discussions for the record and for my colleagues. What steps are necessary to ensure that federal wildland firefighters have access to effective respiratory protection, Dr. Ron?
Well, thank you for the question. First, Congress can act by directing federal agencies to adopt modern science-based respiratory standards aligned with the NFPA guidelines and those with NIOSH as well, tailored to wildland and urban interface firefighting. And accelerating the research. You know, we don't have a perfect product right now out there that we can apply to wildland firefighting, and yet, you know, we kind of joke that the wildland firefighting is, 100 years of tradition unencumbered by progress. We could do a lot better. We just need to focus our attention. We need deployable, field-ready options and even interim solutions for now that can provide some level of meaningful protection. And then also integrating exposure monitoring for these folks so that they have some sort of medical background on which to base their claims in the future.
No, thank you so much. And I cannot stress the importance of that longitudinal tracking of impacts of the exposures. We also know wildland firefighters absorb toxic chemicals, as you discussed, through their skin from soot, smoke, and ash. How can we improve dermal protections in the near term? And in other words, what immediate action should be taken to protect our wildland firefighters?
Well, thanks again for the question. And as I mentioned, unfortunately, a lot of our wildland firefighters are working days and weeks in the same gear. Let's be real candid about this. They're working with gear and PPE that's heavily contaminated by toxic, hazardous, carcinogenic substances, all without washing or decontaminating these for those days or weeks at a time. Make no mistake there, that is a hazardous materials site on their backs. And we need to do better in decontaminating our firefighters and providing them with clean gear. I'll just say real quickly that we just completed a study related to the Los Angeles firefighting incident and identified a 40 to 60% reduction in metabolic markers for cancer-causing substances just by starting the firefighters out with clean gear at the start of their shift. There's clean cab protocols, there's decontamination of the apparatus, there's all sorts of things. Even skin wipes, periodically during their shift would go a long way in producing the kind of results we're looking for. And then lastly, I would say technology now exists where we have dermal protective fabrics. We've documented a 90% reduction in particle exposure to our firefighters with this new fabric. It needs to be used.
No, thank you so much. And my understanding is that cultural norms within the wildland firefighting community can make it challenging to introduce new technology or new respiratory protective equipment like we've discussed. What changes are needed to successfully implement new protective equipment and procedures?
Arguably, the leading benefit would be to leadership. Adopting those changes, demonstrating their importance, but also just making our firefighters more aware. They go into this profession not fully understanding the risks that they're going to face. So leadership and training, number one.
Great. Thank you so much. I know that I'm running out of time, so I just want to reiterate the importance of this work. I thank the committee in the bipartisan nature of approach to this. Clearly, our wildland firefighters have enormous importance in our community and in our history, and we need to do better to protect them. Thank you very much, Dr. Ron.
Thank you.
And I yield back. Thank you.
Gentlelady yields. I now recognize the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Stauber, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Tiffany. Mr. Spencer, it's great to see you again. As the subcommittee has heard today, the dedicated men and women of the U.S. Park Police play significant roles on behalf of the American people in protecting our nation's capital. U.S. Park Police officers in recent years have responded to several high-profile emergencies in and around our nation's capital, ranging from the plane crash at Reagan National Airport earlier this year to the June 2017 congressional baseball shooting, helping save the lives of several members of Congress and U.S. Capitol Police officers who were injured in that shooting. It is my understanding that the U.S. Park Police also played a significant role in the tragic shooting of 2 National Guard members last week in downtown Washington, D.C., near Farragut Square, which is under the jurisdiction of the National Park Police. Mr. Spencer, can you expand upon the Park Police's response?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. I appreciate your support for law enforcement. The U.S. Park Police received a call, or an alert over the radio that there had been a shooting in the vicinity of Farragut Square. Our helicopter aviation unit, which we refer to as the Eagle, were already out on a call for something out in Great Falls. They responded to the Washington Monument grounds to make sure they could medevac any potential victims. Our ground units assisted the Metropolitan Police to block off roadways and to make sure that any ground units could get to our Eagle. I think they believed that both patients would have been transported by our helicopter. For whatever reason, on the ground, EMS personnel decided that it would be better for the other patient to be transported to by ambulance.
So your response was immediate, life-saving response,
Immediate.
as you always do, and to make sure that the suspect or suspects are in custody or at least held so they can't harm any more individuals. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And
Has there been, just time short here, so Mr. Spencer, has there been a noticeable shift for the support of federal law enforcement agencies from the Biden administration to the Trump administration?
since the beginning of this year, we have received an extremely large amount of support from the current administration. Our union has been raising the flag for years, for over a decade, across multiple administrations for our staffing shortages. This administration under Secretary Burgum has helped us significantly with recruiting and retention incentives.
And I believe the President's Executive Order 14252, Making the District of Columbia Safe and Beautiful Act, is part of that shift. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree.
That's why I think it's important that we pass HR 5103. Administrations come and go, and their executive orders and other executive actions do as well. We've seen incredible support for federal law enforcement, in my view, under the Trump administration. We need to make sure future administrations continue to support federal law enforcement agencies like the U.S. Park Police. Passing HR 5103 and codifying President Trump's executive orders 14252 will help lock in that support. With the time I have left, Mr. Spencer, I want to turn to HR 1260, the U.S. Park Police Modernization Act. I know that this legislation is not under the jurisdiction of the subcommittee and not on the agenda today, but I believe it is an important tool to help support the brave men and women of the U.S. Park Police. Can you please expand upon the bill and how this would help your officers?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. Basically, what our bill, HR 12, through Representative Nicole Malliotakis does, HR 1260, it just levels the playing field for our officers with other federal agencies. We're one of the only ones left that you have to work over 30 years to receive your maximum retirement benefits. Most of us age out at age 57, which a lot of us are prior military, so therefore you'll never be able to reach your max retirement benefits. You'll age out before that happens. All it does is compress the pay scale and the time it takes to reach that pay at the end of your career.
I will commit to you my full support to get that done. You are professionals, and I appreciate your service to our nation and our national parks. Ms. Cook, with my last few seconds here, I want to thank you for sharing that tragic story of your grandson.
Thank
It should
you.
have never have happened. Should have never have happened. We need to get serious in our prosecution to make sure that if you do a crime, you pay for that crime.
Yes.
And I think it's unconscionable
Yes.
that you take a life and you do 5 or 7 years only. And I yield back.
Thank you very much. You're right.
Gentlemen's time has expired. I now recognize Dr. Kennedy for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for, again, for convening this. And Ms. Cook, thank you for your touching testimony. I'm sorry for you and your family's loss, and I can feel that loss. You mentioned it's been 8 years that you have suffered, you and your family have suffered through the brutal murder and dumping of his body on a side street, and not even being able to, for 9 months, able to find his remains and give respect to the 23-year-old young man that he was. And I find it reprehensible that this city is the nation's capital and a beacon for the world, and that these kind of filthy acts are conducted in this city without repercussions is what you've testified of. And I'm very touched by not only what you initially said with your introductory statements, by what you continue to say, is that these unacceptable acts need to be prosecuted appropriately. And I'm very grateful for your willingness, the bravery, the boldness, and the power and strength represented in your testimony to come here and talk to us about these issues. A room, unfortunately, that is almost empty, but I know that these comments are being broadcast to those that care around the country. And I'll stand with you and President Trump and decry these disgusting behaviors that we accept in the city. Because, Ms. Cook, I'm ashamed to say that it's not just you and your family that suffer, but I'm going to list the names of, as a freshman, I've been here for less than a year, and these are the names of people that I'm aware of that have been brutally murdered, assassinated on the streets of this city. We have Sarah Beckstrom and Andrew Wolf, the National Guard troops that were just last week, the day before Thanksgiving, assassinated by what sounds like an insane individual who came here from across the country to kill these people. We have two young Jewish people who are about to get engaged and begin their lives together, Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lachinsky, who stepped outside of the Jewish Museum just a short distance from where we sit right now, and were brutally assassinated by another insane individual in this town, the town that is not only our nation's capital, but a beacon for the world. And then an intern for one of our congressional colleagues, Ron Estes, this young man, Eric Tarpinian Yakim, was also killed in a random act of violence near the Washington Convention Center just a few months back. And that's just a short list that I can give of the number of people. And we both know that there are any number of unnamed individuals that are not reported by the media that have been killed on this street's capital just in the past several months, let alone the past several years, as you with and I will name Marty William McMillan Jr., your grandson, who is on that list. And I sorrow with you, and I know my congressional colleagues sorrow with you. And when I hear people complain about President Trump and what he's trying to do to make this nation's capital not only beautiful, but also safe again, I hope that they would, before they decry these behaviors of President Trump and say how terrible it is that he's sending National Guard troops to this Capitol, to try to keep us safe from these disgusting behaviors, these violent acts, these murderous acts that are perpetrated on our people. I hope they would come and talk to you and talk to your family and see the impact over the past 8 years that you've had to suffer as a result of these violent behaviors before they go on public and they do media interviews and talk about how terrible it is that President Trump's trying to enforce the laws of our land, that murder is not acceptable here in this country. And I'll also say to Mr. Spencer and Chairman Pemberton, thank you for what you do in trying to keep our streets safe associated with this effort of the Trump administration, and good people like you on a daily basis put your lives on the line as you go out on the streets and try to help protect Ms. Cook's family, her grandson Marty, from these disgusting behaviors. Ms. Cook, I just want to give you a chance with my remaining time to say anything else that you'd like to say associated with the murder of your grandson and what you feel about President Trump's effort to try to protect us in these terrible times.
And his effort, and I don't care what they say about what he's doing, the National Guard and all of that. I walked through Union Station when I came down here for the last hearing. I had never walked through Union Station and felt that safe since I've been here. It was so clean, and in the park you could sit down at a seat. It wasn't someone homeless, it wasn't dirty, and you didn't feel any fear. These are the things that he's bringing. This is what we need. You know, for people that say that, I wonder what are they hiding from? What kind of criminal activities are they participating in? Why don't you want him here, you know, digging up the old stuff here? Because it's been corrupt for years. Democrats didn't do anything about it. Okay, they didn't talk, and they was the problem where I couldn't get justice for my grandson with the new laws that they're giving these criminals. Do you know the criminals have more rights than the victims? Where every time you go, they're giving you a paper talking about their rights. Well, what about our rights? The judge says to us, You know, after we gave our impact statements, she looks at the killer and asks him, I know this has been a terrible day. I know it's been a stressful day for you. You have anything you want to say? A stressful day for him?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? This is what the judge says. Okay, so no, it really needs to change that judiciary system, get that out of there however way they can, re-educate them, train them or something, so that they have some of the laws there. In Texas or somewhere like that, you kill someone there, you're gonna get the life. In some states, they're giving the death penalty. You're gonna get the death penalty. We don't have that here, but something needs to be drastically changed with the judiciary system, and I pray that you'll do it. Because I am tired of suffering. I'm tired of watching people, the children are getting murdered, the babies, the children are getting murdered, and we're getting minimal, and that's not right. A life is very important. That's the most valuable thing we have is life. And when you lose a loved one, you can't get that back.
That's right.
Thank you so
God
much.
bless
I
you.
appreciate you.
Bless you, Ms. Cook, for that testimony. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired now. Recognize Ms. Kiggins for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to additionally recognize Mrs. Cook, and thank you for sharing your very powerful testimony and using your voice and speaking for all victims. I think that is so important. And I would encourage you to share your story in as many places as you can and let them know that you agree with what's happening here in Washington and that we are trying to put good positive change in place that does look out for victims and for families and loved ones. As a mother of a 23-year-old, I can only imagine the grief that your family experienced. So wanted just to thank you. It was very powerful, and I encourage you to continue to share that story with all kinds of communities. Just to switch gears too, I wanted to welcome Mayor Bowden from my district. Welcome here to Washington. We've met several times back home in Virginia's 2nd District about a variety of issues. So thank you very much for being here today. And just wanted to ask a couple questions about our goal to make our beaches safer everywhere, but especially in Virginia's 2nd District. So we know, and you mentioned in your opening statement, that Chincoteague's economy relies heavily on tourism, and reliable beach safety plays an important part in that. And can you just speak to the practical impact that consistent lifeguard coverage has on visitor confidence, local businesses, and the overall experience on your part of the Eastern Shore?
It's safety on Assateague is paramount. It's right before the contracted lifeguards came on board this year, we had a very, very close call with a victim who was in distress. Actually, people that were recreating on the beach actually went out and helped that person and brought that person in, and we had our rescue squad go over. So it's, the impact that has on our small little area is significant, and especially when people say, "Well, I don't know if I want to come this year." People spend a lot of time on the beach. They come for the beach. They come to see the ponies, and that's it. All they do on Chincoteague is sleep and eat. But on Assateague, it's the safety over there is because there's nothing else there. You can't just get help in a matter of a few seconds or a couple minutes. You have to have things in place.
Certainly a large part of your local economy, just that tourism aspect. So, and you noted in your written testimony that the town has taken on additional responsibilities to keep visitors safe during the busy season over the summer. So can you walk us through how Chincoteague has managed the financial burden of providing lifeguard services when the federal coverage was not available?
Well, it was a partnership with the county as well. And us, along with the county, talked to the National Park Service about a company out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. And our emergency operations coordinator, Mr. Rush, for the town of Chincoteague, was also in on those talks to get a company there that would provide these services. And so, of course, that took 30 to 35 days before we could get anything done there. So when they finally came on board, the first time that we had lifeguards on the beach was July 17th, and they were there for exactly 30 days through August 17th. And then we had August 23rd and 24th, which added 2 more days, August 30th and 31st, which added 2 more days, and then September 1st for a total of 35 days. And so it worked out well, but it just took too long to work out well. The lifeguards actually ended up hiring a few of the local people or the contracted services ended up hiring a few of the local people that, were lifeguards over there before, and it worked out well. But we can't go through this again. We have to have something in place for the summer season coming up.
Right.
It's the number one priority for Assateague right now.
Agree, and by July, most of your summer is quickly wrapping up. So I know that the town of Chincoteague formed a reimbursement agreement this summer with the Department of the Interior, and to your knowledge, what is the current status of this reimbursement agreement, and what amount of money is the town currently owed from the federal government for hiring lifeguards this summer?
So we have not been reimbursed yet, and neither has the county, and I want to say that the town is owed in the neighborhood of around $14,000, and the same with the county.
Great, thank you. We will continue to make sure that reimbursement happens. And just in closing, the Safe Beaches and Safe Swimmers Act is intended to provide clarity about federal rules and reduce uncertainty for towns like yours. So in your view, how would establishing a clear federal framework for supporting lifeguard services improve your planning and ensure consistent safety for residents and visitors?
It would be most helpful, especially with our emergency services on Chincoteague Island itself. We may have a heart attack victim on Chincoteague, and then we have to scramble to get people to go over to Assateague to help. So having that partnership in place, either with the National Park Service or if the Park Service can contract with life-saving services from wherever, it would just be wonderful, and it would help greatly. The amount of money that the Park Service brings in over there to Assateague Island, along with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, it makes no sense why it's not happening. So we're willing to do our part the best we can, and but we need the federal government to step up too and do what they've been doing.
Thank you, and we are certainly ready to do our part as well. Thank you for your testimony and for being here, and I yield back.
Chincoteague.
Yes.
Gentlelady's time has expired. Now, Mr. Crank from Colorado, you have 5 minutes for questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Ms. Cook, thank you for your testimony. I'll tell you one thing. There's a gentleman named Marty William McMillan Jr. staring down today, pretty proud of his grandma. So I'm sure he is. You've been just incredible testimony, so thank you for that. Over the last several years, the U.S. has experienced one of the most alarming surges in violent crime in modern history. And this rise didn't happen in a shadow. It happened in broad daylight, in cities and in communities across the country as policy shifted, accountability weakened, and public safety took a back seat. During the Biden administration, violent crime spiked at levels we haven't seen in decades. And across the nation, an average American city saw homicide rates jump by nearly 30%. That's not a normal fluctuation. It's not a statistical blip. This is a public safety emergency. Families felt it, businesses felt it, officers on the street felt it. Every community, urban, suburban, rural, lived with the consequences of the policies. And it wasn't just homicides. Aggravated assaults increased, robberies increased, carjackings soared, big city and small city. People were attacked at bus stops, in parking lots, even outside their own homes. These aren't talking points, they're real people's lives. Our nation's capital was no exception, and this city doesn't belong to just a few people who pay local taxes here. It belongs to every American, and every American pays taxes that support this city. This is America's city. Washington, D.C., the city that should symbolize order, accountability, and the rule of law, experienced some of its deadliest years on record. Washington is ranked among the least safe cities in America, driven largely by a homicide rate that outpaced almost every major jurisdiction in the country. That should alarm every member of Congress, because this is a city where people live, where our staffs walk to work, and where millions of our constituents and millions of Americans visit every single year. And yet, despite these staggering numbers, DC leaders, under the approval of the Biden administration, chose to weaken accountability even further. they passed the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act. And they restructured sentencing laws in ways that embolden criminals and discourage law enforcement. What's even more disturbing is the lack of serious prosecution. Crimes that once resulted in actual real penalties are now pled down, they're dismissed, or they're simply ignored. Criminals know it, communities know it, and the message being sent is unmistakable. Crime pays, and accountability just doesn't matter anymore. And this mindset's spreading. Other states and cities have adopted similar soft-on-crime policies. My home state of Colorado is one of them. Families in Colorado have watched violent crime increase. They've watched car thefts explode. They've watched repeated offenders walk free because the laws are written to favor leniency over safety. And my colleagues and I sent a letter urging our governor to reverse some of these dangerous policies. But as of today, we're still waiting for decisive action, and it's unacceptable. It's why I'm proud to support the administration's executive order, making the District of Columbia safe and beautiful, and it's why we're, in this House, have taken real action, passing legislation to repeal harmful laws in DC that tie law enforcement's hands and allow violent criminals back on the streets. Our capital should set the example for America. It should be the safest, cleanest, most secure city in the United States. I have a question for Mr. Pemberton. Mr. Pemberton, based on your testimony, you've seen firsthand the consequences of DC's soft-on-crime policies. Do you think the American people deserve a capital city that's safe, secure, and welcoming?
Of course, this is the nation's capital, as you mentioned. The city doesn't just belong to 700,000 residents. It belongs to every American in this country, and it should be an example of how we live our lives in this country, whether you're a visitor or a tourist, even if you're from another country and you want to come experience the District of Columbia, you shouldn't be subject to some sort of backstreet violence or being robbed or carjacked just because you wanted to come down here and see the memorials or the museums or any of the other things that the city offers.
Thank you. We have a responsibility to do the right thing as members of Congress. Thank you, Mr. Pemberton. Thank you, Ms. Cook, for your testimony today. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
The gentleman yields, and I would like to thank all you witnesses for your testimony and the members for your questions here today. Members of the subcommittee may have some additional questions for you, and we will ask that you respond to those in writing. Under Committee Rule 3, members of the subcommittee must submit questions to the subcommittee clerk by 5 p.m. on Friday, December 5th, 2025. The hearing record will be held open for 10 business days for those responses. If there is no further business, without objection, the Subcommittee on Federal Lands stands adjourned and wishes all of you a Merry Christmas.